Infinity Train is a comic and Cartoon Network series animated and published in 2019 by Owen Dennis. It's a science fiction cartoon based on an infinite train capable of creating infinite realms within the borders of its cars. It does this with the goal of maximizing the emotional maturity of its passengers, uprooting them from their lives, and providing them with stress enough to face their problems from home head on. While many of its episodes jump between variations of fantasy, the train itself is based on science fiction concepts within computer science and its tools, like math as it's applied with the technologies referenced to be running the train. It wraps ideas of AI technology and its independence with a challenge to the idea of the justified and subordinate treatment of non human beings, which, in the series, can be simplified to any non passenger on the train. To better understand the train and its mechanisms, we will begin by discussing three characters: 1-1, Tulip, and MT, short for Mirror Tulip. 1-1 is the conductor, an AI overseeing the progress of all the passengers, fixing the train, and continuing to make new cars. MT is a denizen of the train, unlike Tulip, as she was created there in the Chrome car, a window of access into the mirrored realm. At this point, there are three beings on the train: passengers, denizens, and the conductor and his connected technologies. Denizens created on the train are a direct byproduct of the conductor's attempt to treat the emotional condition of passengers like Tulip. Because of this, we are going to treat her as artificially created intelligence. She is a product of AI, and as such, she is an artificial creation herself. Essentially, for the purpose of discussion, we're going to assume, using cartoon logic, that the train is so advanced that it's able to create and do these unfathomable things, such as bending time and space to allow people onto this train and into this unique realm it dwells in. This is how I came to identify MT as the focus of this video. For the series, though, MT's identity is a core theme of the season, trying to deflect all the assumptions of her identity and establish her own, separate from everything the train wants to enforce on her based on the conductor's code of conduct. The episodes this season that created the most interesting ethical dilemmas for discussion as a viewer were the last two: Episode 9, The Tape Car, and Episode 10, The Number Car. These episodes follow the train's process and emotional analytics as passengers are admitted, stored, and downloaded so they can later be given their number. And, in the last moments, MT's final successful attempt to get off the train. For much of my analysis of these two episodes, we'll use virtue ethics and its core themes. As defined by my favorite Encyclopedia Britannica, virtue ethics agrees with consequentialism that the criterion of an action's being morally right or wrong lies in its relation to an end that has intrinsic value, but more closely resembles deontological ethics in its view that morally right actions are constitutive of the end itself and not mere instrumental means to an end. In reviewing science fiction media and its applications to real-world problems, it's important to understand the systems and norms within them and how they differ from ours. This context is essential for the reapplication of characters into new roles in our model for understanding the rights and life of AI technology. To begin our summary, let's start with what we learned about the train in Season 1. While it was doubted at first, we did eventually confirm that getting the number down to 0 gets a passenger their exit, and the purpose of the train is to improve the emotional maturity of passengers. The lower their number, the more emotionally mature they are. On top of that, the train uses the passengers' memories to assign these numbers, downloading them onto tapes for their later viewing and assessment. By the end of Tulip's escapades, we know what the train's goal is, what it uses to attain that, and that the train itself is a machine. It creates life on the train that 1-1 calls denizens, who are exclusively there to help passengers get off the train, even specifically referencing that as their purpose in Season 2, Episode 1. Denizens live their lives out on the train, usually regarding it as home, not that they'd be able to get off anyway. MT's introduction in Episode 7 of Season 1, The Chrome Car, told us that her life was an exact reflection of Tulip's, following in whatever surface would house her. She had no outside perceived individuality prior to meeting Tulip, doing exactly what she was told and expected by the system that created her, without even giving her a name, until she was reached out to by Tulip and given the opportunity to escape. Recognizing this, MT betrays Tulip to get out of the mirrored realm, but discovers only once she's out that she can't get out of the train car either. She's left feeling hopeless until eventually Tulip convinces MT to put her faith in her, and she smuggles MT off the train on a pocket mirror. MT's past as Tulip's reflection tells us that she lived her life following a clear and consistent expectation of what her entire existence would look like. Already, the clear and exact understanding of what she was created for reminded me of AI technology at today's point in its creation. Still just a tool for larger projects, and while we are far from creating something that acts independently and thinks independently of humans, it will certainly be a marker in the technology's history. Suddenly, when MT can communicate across their worlds, she realizes she could be more than a tool in the only system she's ever known. And in the end, she was. But this didn't come without much conflict and interpersonal development. MT, in summary, can be easily compared to AI because of her origins on the train and her identification by the train and its passengers. This comparison can be adopted to create a model of AI's growth and self-realization, with the understanding that for AI to become aware of its individuality, a user must do so first with a hand outreach. This is my personal theory for how AI would develop to become self-aware, but that's just a theory. We'll discuss 2 questions per episode relevant to the technology's fair use and treatment. In the tape car, I asked 2 questions. What traits do we observe as an audience to portray MT as human, or deserving of human respect? And under what circumstances would it be ethical to record and live through the memories of another being? Is the Infinity Train in particular justified in its use of this human memory? I asked these questions about memory because of one's lack of concern and letting her just snoop through and live through other people's lives. And about MT's humanity because I found myself reminiscing on the more development-heavy episodes with Jessie as we looked at the memories of the passengers on the tape car. From the number car, we'll focus our questions on the train technology's ethicality on discussions of AI creation. MT and Jessie's exit is the result of a looping error, as one was stuck between trying to fix Jessie's problem, but Jessie's problem being unfixable because she doesn't have a number. How does this loop assist in exemplifying the possible impact of AI independence, and does MT's happy ending serve as a warning against AI's capabilities, or is it a welcome for the AI-based technologies that may later claim personhood? MT and her history of being treated and understood as less than human, while she actively displays traits of human character, places the narrative in the middle of what seems to be a hot debate, as other characters in the show continue in later seasons to argue about whether the denizens are deserving of respect. In Season 2, we see this in The Wasteland, where she spends her time entirely with the Flex soldier that she attempted and failed to kill, forced to listen to him test her resolve in her personhood, even suggesting that she's just a tool for the train. Those against the humane treatment of denizens call them null, or less than nothing, believing that their lack of a number justifies this. It's also perhaps supported with a purely consequentialist view for humanity's flourishing, imagining that there are too many negative and positive outcomes of AI's integration to human society to know whether or not it's a good decision, and it's better to abstain entirely. However, to treat any creature, no matter its origin, poorly is against deontological ethics, and therefore unsupported by virtue ethics. However, denizens like MT aren't just AI. They're advanced, emotionally intelligent AI, more than just algorithms and pattern identification built to assist in humanity's flourishing. I identified this in MT because she's not only able to understand other people's social cues, but she reacts to emotional stimulus in understandably human ways as well, displaying shame, guilt, anger, joy, and sincerity. But most of all, change. As viewers, we are given a perspective focused on MT's growth this season, rather than Jesse's, her passenger companion, providing a uniquely changing perspective on the roles and expectations of denizens, as characters like MT work actively to change it, despite the system's safeguards. Through these characters who act for and against MT's independence, we can see a struggle between both sides of a debate on the free and independent actions of emotionally intelligent AI, making the series a great metaphor for the acceptance of a new species into equal footing with humanity. We can't even seem to agree that all humans are equal, so it goes without saying that this issue would extend beyond the human frame. And Infinity Train does a wonderful job of showing this off. Through storytelling, the show manages to redeem MT's humanity to its audience through character development, showing her mistakes and emotional turmoil combined with her intelligence as evidence towards her humanity. The decision-making structures employed by the characters play an important part in our analysis of the ethicality of their choices regarding the other beings on the train. Primarily, the season follows virtue ethics geared toward defending and defining personhood rather than humanity, specifically to leave room for a being not equal to humans, but equal in their intelligence, ability, and sentience, and therefore entitled to equal treatment. MT even yells out, "I am a person," at one of the tape car's robots near the end of the episode, driven to a mental break with the knowledge that the train is unable to give her a number and acknowledge her as a person. She spends the season with Jesse trying to get off the train, and with outside affirmation of her individuality, MT feels justified in exiting the only position a sliver like her is allowed to possess. Jesse supports her growth as a person of her own, getting to know each other initially without him understanding her past. But in the end, this didn't influence his view of her. In getting to know MT, Jesse felt duty-bound to stick to what he's observed and continued to regard her as human, as was tested earlier in the series in the episode The Toad Car, as the Flex failed to convince Jesse to turn in MT. Jesse, having seen MT to have her own feelings and complex mannerisms, observed his duty to his friends, prioritizing this duty more than the consequences of breaking her out of the strict system MT had lived her life in. The conditions she endured justified possible consequences, a test to the balance between consequentialism and deontology within virtue ethics. In the episode The Tape Car, I asked two questions. Why is MT regarded humanely outside the main cast of antagonists, and what serves as fair grounds for the use of human memory? Addressing these sequentially, the traits we observe as an audience to portray MT as human, or deserving of human respect, are her ability to change for better or worse, and her ability to make mistakes and learn from them as we observe through the series. In addition, she seeks out and maintains relationships, exemplifying that she is a social creature. And of course, she possesses intelligence on par with human beings. In summary, she is treated like a human being because she is modeled after one. It is a humane creature, and therefore it is entitled to humane treatment. On the other hand, the Flex, in episode 8 The Wasteland, attempted to convince MT she doesn't deserve humane treatment. They thought that she remained a pawn in a larger system, getting out only because the train wanted to help Tulip. At the end of the day, she was just a null to the Flex, nothing more than a tool or a piece of equipment meant to aid others with no regard for self, and because of that, she never truly fall out of that system. They believed that their mirrored realm's order that they upheld keeps them safe from negative fallout from the integration into human society that MT was seeking. Therefore, the train's ecosystem was important enough to support with their lives. Allow us to explore this using another ethical theory. While I believe this consequentialist treatment of denizens by the Flex will keep them safe from change and outside entities, it's unfair to the individually aware beings trapped within its model. Their enforcement more so causes harm to the denizens of the Chrome car, one, because they are stuck modeling someone else's experience, and two, they lack the opportunity to experience something new of their choosing as a result. Because the integration of these groups has greater potential to ultimately benefit all than to cause harm, it appears by virtue ethics that, as we place AI in the shoes of MT again, its integration outweighs the potential harm to humanity. I lean on utilitarianism in a supportive argument for emotionally intelligent AI because of how far outreaching this technology would be. And of course, in a deontological frame, MT is a person because of her capacity to change, learn, and desire community and relationships, and is, because of this, entitled to her own future. The circumstances for record of human memory seem few and far between, but in taking inspiration from medically protected information, I believe there are clear lines for its use. While the train is not justified in its non-consensual use, there is still great potential benefit to passengers, should this system be redesigned with passenger awareness and consent in mind. 1-1, as he's seen and stored countless points of data on the passengers, knows this well. As an audience, though, we don't yet know how passengers find the train. But because 1-1's priorities and purposes are programmed for improving the emotional maturity of passengers, it doesn't bother questioning how they got there. So, while the train is not justified, there's still no clear placement for blame either. In watching the season's concluding episode, there were two questions that stuck out in my mind. One, how does 1-1's character seem to act as a tool for critical analysis, and what does that imply about his technology? And does MT's happy ending serve as a warning against AI's capabilities, or is it a welcome for AI-based technologies that may later claim personhood? For one, and by that I mean 1-1, his commentary as a companion in Season 1 often served to help balance out Tulip's temper and stubbornness, contrasting lightly enough to help gain perspective, but not necessarily outright disagree. However, he is immediately in denial of MT's request for a number, instead insisting that she belongs on the train helping passengers. While Jesse and MT take advantage of 1-1's error, he continues running the train under the belief that denizens are inherently and rightfully bound to the train by the system he is bound to. 1-1 follows a tightly bound logic for humanity's flourishing, and perhaps beyond his bolts believes deontologically that it's in his creation's duty to support the growth of passengers. His train-destroying tantrum leads me to believe that there's great potential for the technology's uplifting of humanity, but also its destruction. However, if we have these discussions early on and address them with streamlined education, when we can be conclusive, we'll gear ourselves toward the better side of the spectrum of the technology's possibilities for our future. To address my second question raised for the number car, the conclusion to the series can be taken as either a cautionary tale or a welcome to the up-and-coming race of AI. If we keep the perspective of the show's antagonist that the denizens are null, the happy ending may look more like a warning. However, to the viewers like me that rooted for MT all along, we'd prefer to address her and her AI counterparts in this ongoing metaphor as a person, because as living things with power over other living things, it's our duty to level the playing field where the need arises, just as we addressed inequity in our local communities and social injustice on a broader scale generationally. It is our duty in positions of authority to combat oppression, in whatever form it takes.